Welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me, busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Hey, everybody, welcome. It's so great to have all of you tune in and turn on. I want to thank you for joining me. This is a conversation, Benny, that I needed to have for a little bit. And, so why did I feel like I need to have it? I've been reading the articles. I've been, listening to a little bit about what's happened right at the Olympics, especially in the arena of figure skating. And I'm a little baffled. And so here's the question as I read about the debates that are happening back and forth by athletes, by previous athletes like Ms. Richardson, who was not allowed to participate because of the United States decision to bench her for marijuana. Not the Olympic Committee decision, but the United States, right? So people are coming forward, and you hear originally what you heard when this was first discovered. You heard conversations about she's a minor, and nobody knew who the minor was because there are a bunch of minors that participate. But there was a minor that competed in the Olympics. We now know who she is. And it was revealed that she tested positively for a particular drug, which we're going to talk about today. But that wasn't the question. What happened thereafter is what became very confusing, at least to me. I'm an athlete. I've competed in my younger years. There were rules back in the day, and there was no way that you were going to compete in something that you disqualified yourself by taking some other action for. It used to be very clear, pretty black and white, You take a test, you pass the test, or you don't pass the test, right? Now, am I oversimplifying it? Well, if you take a look at some of the people, and there's a lot of conversation about what the drug is. I'm going to tell you what the drug is. And believe me, I've talked to a couple of my doctor friends, but the question was, oh, it's not a performance enhancement drug. Well, I got to tell you, marijuana isn't either. So I'm not quite sure that argument holds up. It is on the list of substances you cannot take. That's it. So I was a little baffled by this. I thought, okay, all right. So we're going to just march along. And what's going to happen is, didn't pass the test. She's out. The team is out. They're out. They're gone. They're like Zippo, out. That's not what happened. And I didn't pay a lot of attention until I got a bunch of emails, and I said, okay, I've got to start to look at this. So what really is the issue? Why is it so hard to look at a situation that is very clear? You either have that drug in your system or you don't. See, I'm just like, that's me. I'm an athlete. We either passed the test or we didn't. You either had a urine analysis and you passed or you didn't. There was not like, oh, I may have passed. So I was a little baffled by this. So I talked to a couple of my friends, talked to some coaches, and this has become an issue that turned into a backstory. So what's the backstory? So one backstory is this happened to a minor and she's not responsible. Okay, maybe she's not responsible. But the Russian Olympic Committee, the ROC, they are responsible. The people, the members of the team, the leadership, they're responsible. And it doesn't matter that she's a minor and was not responsible. It doesn't really matter. Have you ever heard of a minor being picked for a DUI, picked up for a DUI? I just want to ask you, you ever hear about any of that? You see, it's really interesting in the conversation of this because I think, like so many of my colleagues think, there's more at stake here than just our hearts going out for a superbly talented young woman, who happens to be in the middle of a blood test that showed a drug that is not allowed in the Olympics. Who doesn't feel for this woman? But how we feel, is that going to be the thing that guides us in ethics and integrity? And that's the question today. That's why I wanted to talk about it, because I did some homework. I went back and I said, like, how many people have been banned from a sport for testing? And how many of them have been sanctioned? So I'm not even talking about like, you can't participate in the Olympics. And by the way, you can't get the gold in either one of those events. I'm talking about people that are of equal caliber in sports that tested positively, right? And were banned, like banned for 2 years. Like this one person was banned for 8 years. So how do we separate the way we feel and the infraction? It's not something that comes easy for us. But it really is the question for me, to dope or not to dope. That's really the question. I have been following also Ms. Richardson and her statement. And I don't know if her statement is true. I don't know if there is a question of race involved with this. I don't know. But perhaps we should look at that. Perhaps we should look at this. Perhaps this is, a shame when we start to look at this issue in the Winter Games for this Russian figure skater, Kamila Valieva, under investigation, skated beautifully anyway. But is it really fair? So I'm thinking to myself, I'm the Canadian team who participated in a team event, and I'm fourth. And then I started to think beyond that. I was talking to Linda about it. And I said, well, wait a minute. This isn't just one person that's involved now. Because these other athletes that I mentioned, and I just mentioned a few of them, there's a whole list. You can go in and you can find a list of every athlete, right? You can look, it tells you what year they were like kicked out of a sport or a competition. You can actually go in and find them all and see what country they're from, right? You can go through and you can just go through the whole list and you can see it. And then there's the question of the drug itself, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But am I oversimplifying it? Is there no room for heart? There's never really been room for heart in Olympics and sports and competitive sports. There's really never been an issue about if you compete and we find out you're taking steroids, let's say, you're gone. Lance Armstrong, gone. Boom, in a minute. But really, what are we talking about? Is it the fact that we're talking about a banned substance that people have now pretty much trying to say this particular drug, what's the big deal? TMZ. That's what it's a TMZ. It's to treat, you know, the heart related conditions. Okay, wait a minute. Why is a young skater on heart medicine? Okay, that was my first question to my doctor friends. Why is that? So you can start to go down the rabbit hole like I did. You know, you could start to see, what are the questions we're asking? What are we in search for? Or is it really as black and white as Miss Richardson said? Is it really that? You dope, you're out. It doesn't matter. If it's on the list, you dope, you're out. So then I wondered, why is this so hard? I mean, it's gut wrenching for this young, superb athlete. It's gut wrenching. But why is it so hard to make that decision? I wonder. See, I don't really understand that. I don't know how you all feel. 1-800-930-2819. And I know so many people reached out over social media in her defense saying it's not her fault. It's not her fault. It's not her fault. True. But that goes for any athlete that's under a jurisdiction of a leadership team of any country. It's probably not their fault either. But you're competing as a country and your country is responsible. Think about it. See, that was hard for me to come to that. It's hard for me to say that. We are so unwilling to look at things that are so part of a black and white code of ethics. And I say we, I see generalizing, it's hard to do. As human beings that are following the story, it's so gut wrenching. And just to watch this young woman and the talent, my gosh, it's like, what a waste. And yet, does that allow us to dismiss one of the utmost rules in a championship level, high level sports competition? And that's really difficult. It's difficult. So this particular drug, I did a little research on it. One, the drug is not even approved in the United States for use. So I just want to say that. That's a whole different story. But it's used to treat heart-related conditions. It increases, here's the interesting thing about it, right? It increases blood flow to the heart, which limits rapid swings in blood pressure. So I love listening to the arguments. Oh, this drug, that is not going to do anything. It doesn't mean anything. But think about it. Think about a drug that regulates your blood pressure. Think about what blood pressure does, right? Think about any one of us that maybe we got like a wacko blood pressure thing going on. You can't take it if you're in the United States, but let's just say we were. And it gave us this sense of regulation that no other athlete competing could achieve. See, this is really the question. This is the question. Did it give one athlete over another an advantage in preparation for the sport? Because we go through the same thing with steroids, right? Oh, Joe took steroids for 6 months before he played the football game. But when he played the football game, what we found out was, okay, he was not actually on steroids at the time. You know, he didn't test positively. He just took them over here because he was in the training and it helped him in the training. So that doesn't count. But here's a question I'm trying to understand. Is it not as simple as doping or not doping? I know in the sports that I competed in, it was very clear. It was like, yeah, that you just are not showing up like you have a clean set of blood work or urine analysis. You're just like, you're not going to, don't even come on a court. But I wonder why this case is so different. I wonder why this case is so different. But here's another question that I don't have an answer to. And I wonder how you all feel about it. You know, I've competed in sports. I became ineligible to compete to become part of the US team when I was playing very competitively because I accepted $10 for winning an event. And there was a $10 prize. I actually don't remember getting the $10, but that made me ineligible. And I remember showing up to compete to become part of the US team. Stood a pretty good chance and became immediately ineligible because that particular competition and taking $10 moved me from an amateur to a professional. And I remember the moment and I remember crying and oh my God, it was just my coach, Sam, was like, Pat, what did you do? And I'm like, Sam, I don't even remember the competition because I used to compete every weekend. I happened to compete in one that gave money. And I cried. And I tried to give the $10 back. I remember being at the registration desk, pulling out a $10 bill to give the $10 back. But no. And then I had to take responsibility for my ignorance. There was nothing I was going to be able to do or say that was going to change this team trial committee from allowing me to even compete. And I learned a lesson from that. Just because I wasn't aware doesn't make me non-complicit. And see, this to me, as I thought about doing this show today, and I thought about what happened to our young athlete who got caught up in marijuana smoking, got suspended for 30 days by the United States, who lost her mom, one of the fastest women on the track. Yes, a woman of color who's speaking out right now. And where people want to say to her, your case is different. They want to say, your case is different because that was the United States. They want to try to convince her that her suspension for 30 days is different. The only difference that I see is that she's a woman of color. I don't see much difference, whether it's the United States or an IOC or it's some other committee. I don't see the difference. If you dope, the answer is nope. It's that simple. If you dope, the answer is no. But I talked to a friend of mine who's on the team that's in fourth place. Friend of mine who is a friend of one of the athletes on the Canadian team. And we're not even talking about the impact on these people. See, this goes so much further down the rabbit hole because people in power and authority cannot make a decision. Cannot make a decision that is consistent with every other athlete that has come along. They cannot make that decision. And so the ripple effect from all of this, the ripple effect that we are discussing and talking about here, it's not about one athlete anymore. It's about all of the athletes that are competing today, all of the athletes that had to follow a particular rule, all of the athletes that are waiting. And let me just say this, my friend who just was crying, just crying in tears because her niece could not go through an award ceremony. Maybe not the gold, but could not go through an award ceremony at the Olympics in Beijing. Do you see the ripple effect of this? It's not just about a young, very talented skater. It's about the inability to people in authority to be inconsistent and following the rules that we all know were set in place for a reason. And, you know, when I think about this, and I think about what we're talking about, and I think about Ms. Richardson, who is openly out in public, probably at risk for a lot of things, who is saying this is not different. You know, Sha'Carri Richardson speaking out, saying this is not different. I wonder where the other athletes are. Are we afraid to ruffle feathers? What if you were sitting in fourth place and you knew that there was a team that was going to be awarded the gold medal in the Olympics that did not get there according to the standards and ethics of what the Olympic Games are meant to be like and meant to be? My friend put it really easily for me, especially about this particular drug. She said, it's really very simple, Pat. She said, I'm a medical doctor. I'm an environmental doctor. I work with athletes all the time. I'm familiar with the drug. And she tried to explain to me how this drug was related to the skater's grandfather's medication. And she was trying to explain this to me. And I said, does any of that matter? Does the story of, I don't know, are we saying her grandfather gave it to her? Does any of that matter if the drug is in somebody's system? There are more questions that I have than not. But there's a reason that this drug was banned, and the reason that it's not approved in the United States. It is to limit swings in blood pressure. It's to monitor the heart. It has been on the World Anti-Doping Agency's list as a prohibited substance since 2014, as a hormone and metabolic modulator. It's illegal for athletes to both use it in and out of competition, as it increases blood flow efficiency and improves endurance. End of the story. But now we wait, because people that are in leadership cannot make a decision, nor do they understand the impact of their lack of decision making to other athletes that are sitting and watching and thinking, other athletes that are waiting and have now been given a lost opportunity to stand on a podium and receive any medal that they've earned. I don't understand why this is so difficult, but maybe it's because I was an athlete for so many years of my life, and I really understand the rules and the regulations we follow. And I also understand that my ignorance about taking a $10 bill for a competition I won put me out of the running to participate in any amateur sports. And I cried, and I was sad. Then I was angry. And then I just looked at myself and my coach and said, that was really stupid, Pat. So that's what I want you all to think about. This is my moment to really speak out about this. To me, it's black and white. It doesn't matter how she got the drug in her system. It's in her system. Why it even showed up, it had to be in her system before. But what are we saying to the other athletes that follow the letter of the law? Let's take a short break, everybody. We'll be right back.